The markets may be closed, but the business stories are just heating up. I'm Robert Tan. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Here's what's making news today. General Appropriations Bill set to land on President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s desk before Christmas. Asian Development Bank slashes the Philippines' growth forecast and greenlights a $400 million loan to help business adapt and grow. Foreign investments fall sharply to $320 million in September, raising concerns for job and growth. Unemployment climbs to a 3-month high, hitting everyday Filipinos in their wallets. And the business groups call for a fully empowered anti-corruption body. The General Appropriations Bill is on track to reach President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. for review before Christmas Day. Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro confirms the timeline. She adds the President has no plans to certify the gap as urgent.
Dahil patapos naman na sila at sa ating pagkakaalam, bago magpasko ay isusumitin nila yung enrolled copy ng GAB.
On Tuesday, the Senate approved on third and final reading the proposed 6.8 trillion peso national budget for 2026. Following the approval, Senate President Vicente Soto III says a bicameral conference committee will meet December 12 to 14. Their goal, reconcile the differences between the Senate and House versions. The Asian Development Bank has cut the country's 2025 growth outlook to 5%, down from 5.6%. It also lowered its 2026 forecast to 5.3% from 5.7%. The downgrades come as infrastructure spending slows amid the flood control corruption probe. The lender says the investigations have weighed on government spending and investor confidence, echoing a similar downgrade from the World Bank. The ADB notes that low inflation and monetary easing should end next year. But corruption concerns and weather risks continue to pose downside pressures. The Asian Development Bank has approved a $400 million policy-based loan to support the Philippine government's push to improve the ease of doing business. The ADB says the loan under the Business Environment Strengthening with Technology program will back reforms to streamline operations, increase transparency, and promote private sector development. The program also aims to attract investments in priority sectors and improve the digital delivery of government services for businesses and investors. ADB Philippines Country Director Andrew Jeffrey stresses that the private sector remains a key driver of growth and job creation. He says the ADB is committed to finding innovative ways to help businesses grow and accelerate economic expansion. Foreign direct investments in the Philippines fall to $320 million in September 2025, down from $432 million in the same month last year. Data from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas showed cumulative FDI inflows for January to September reached $5.537 billion, down 22.2% from $7.118 billion during the same period in 2024, with Japan, the United States, and Singapore as the top sources. Manufacturing, wholesale, and retail trade and real estate received the most investments, and FDI net inflows were equivalent to 1.6% of gross domestic product during the period. The Department of Education is seeking 41.18 billion pesos in 2026 to fund vouchers and subsidies for students and teachers in private schools, an effort to ease overcrowding in public schools. The budget will support nearly 2.5 million students. It will maintain teacher salary subsidies and provide assistance for school learners in tech-book programs. Education Secretary Sonny Angares says the department will strictly monitor the fair use of funds. He adds they will investigate schools allegedly claiming subsidies for ghost beneficiaries to ensure every peso reaches real students. 20 business groups have issued a joint statement calling for the creation of a fully empowered anti-corruption body with complete investigative and prosecutorial powers. The group said the proposed independent commission should be able to conduct full probes into corruption in government projects, file administrative and criminal cases, and recommend reforms to strengthen institutions. They added that the body is needed to restore public trust amid widespread misuse of funds, ensuring transparency, accountability, and no political interference. More than 2.5 million Filipinos were jobless in October. That's according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. The unemployment rate climbed to 5%, up from 3.8% in September. The employment rate slipped to 95%, with 48.6 million Filipinos reported working. Of that number, 60.6% worked in the services sector, 21.3% in agriculture, and 17.9% in industry. Underemployment improved, easing to 11.1% from 12%. The PSA also reports Filipinos worked an average of 41.4 hours per week. Now let's take a closer look at the latest figures from the Labor Force Survey of the Philippine Statistics Authority. We're getting more details from Paolo Barcelon, who's on the line to break down the numbers. Paolo, what more can you tell us?
Robert, national statistician Claire Dennis Mapa says weather effects have had a partial impact on October's job numbers, as the number of persons in the labor force dropped by around 400,000 in October to 51.16 million from the previous 51.56 million. Unemployment is also up month on month, with over 2.5 million Filipinos now out of work, bigger than close to 2 million.
So we are seeing this pag may huge or substantial increase sa ating labor force participation, unfortunately hindi lahat ng ating labor market as employed.
The four major industries with the largest increase in workers this month or this October are agriculture, public administration and defense, accommodation and food services, and manufacturing, while the military, managers, professionals, technicians, and associate professionals, and clerical support workers make up major occupations in terms of average daily basic pay. Underemployment also is up, as close to 6 million Filipinos are either not having enough paid work or doing work that fits their skills. However, the Economy Department says the labor market remains broadly stable, as DepEd Secretary Arsenio Balisacan says government is looking to expand workforce competitiveness through digital literacy, green technology, and expertise in higher value services. Robert.
Thank you for that report, Paolo Barcelon. And we're taking a short break. Stick around. We've got more stories ahead. You're watching Business Brief. To give us a deeper insight into the latest labor force survey, we're joined by Joshua Mata, Secretary General of Sentro ng Magkakaisa at Progresibong Manggagawa. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for taking time to speak with us today in Business Brief.
Hi, good afternoon.
Unemployment rising to 5% in October 2025. What do you see as the root causes behind the growing number of jobless Filipinos, and how can organizations push for meaningful solutions?
I think what we're seeing now is a clear indication that corruption not only steals public funds, but it actually steals our jobs. Yung malinaw na yon, no? It's very clear that the economic downturn that we have been experiencing at this point in time is really connected to the corruption scandals that have yet to be resolved, no? And that's the reason why we have been pushing Malacanang to do more than just saying that there should be that they should certify certain bills that will problema natin.
Now,
but
in light of
more
that,
importantly,
in light of that, Joshua, when you're talking about what government can do, do you think the current government policies and programs are enough to protect workers and generate new employment, or is there need for a stronger labor-led advocacy?
No, that's the reason. Was trying to say, no, earlier, that the problem actually is that what we're seeing is that this economy continues to exhibit the same pattern that we have been seeing for decades, and that is it is performing phlegmatically when it comes to jobs generation. Now we've heard the figures, we've seen it. Imagine having a high unemployment and underemployment at a time na October na, and we're moving towards Christmas peak. That's worrisome. That only tells us that the economy continues to lag behind, no? And the bigger problem for me is the fact that a large part of the jobs that's being generated are actually in the services sector and not in manufacturing, where we can see better jobs in terms of decent work. That's clear to an industrial policy that the government has never had the balls to actually now.
Now, which sectors do you believe are failing to create sufficient jobs, and how can labor groups engage with businesses to address these gaps?
Manufacturing is the more worrisome section for me. Yes, there's some growth in manufacturing. If you look at on a quarterly basis, manufacturing was hardly seen, no? Which means jobs generation is driven mostly by services and then secondarily by agriculture. And that's the problem, because a lot of these jobs that are being generated in this sector are mostly contractual, no? And they're not as decent jobs as we want to see it. Take a look at where the unemployment is highest in all the regions. It's Calabarzon. Now, isn't that the manufacturing hub of the country? And the fact that Calabarzon exhibited the highest unemployment rate, and then that means that there is a problem with our manufacturing sector at this point.
And Joshua, finally, what do you think needs to be done, let's say, in the short term and medium term?
Well, apart from certifying the bills that he has already certified, the ones that would solve some of the problems that we're dealing with in the corruption scandal, I think it's now time for the government to actually come up with real reforms that will ameliorate yung problema ng mga manggagawa. Now, particularly, we'd like to see a wage-led policy in terms of pump priming the economy. We need to look at pump priming, and one way to pump prime talaga is to make sure that there is wage increase, and if needed, then government should step in to provide wage subsidies to make sure that that some companies can survive this. But more than that, we need a far more robust public employment program.
Okay. On that note, thank you, Joshua, for your insights. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
And thank you very much.
Meanwhile, Asian shares are mostly lower, trading in a narrow range ahead of the Federal Reserve, a third interest rate cut this year. Only Hong Kong's Hang Seng is in the green, while the rest of the region's markets are in the red. On currencies, the US dollar appreciates against the South Korean won, while the Australian dollar also appreciates against the greenback. The dollar means depreciates against the rest of Asian currencies. On commodities, gold trades flat with a slight downward bias, while oil prices are mixed. And in crypto, Bitcoin slips 0.5%, and Ethereum rises almost 1%. Philippine shares end in the negative territory. The PSCI ended nearly 0.3% lower than 959. These sectoral indices were mixed, with holding firms falling the most at 0.5%. Mining oil rose the most at more than 1%. Decliners outpaced advancers 100 to 93, while with value turnover at 6.7 billion pesos. The day's most active stocks were mixed, with Metrobank rising the most at nearly 3%. BPI fell the most at more than 1%. Meanwhile, on currencies, the peso is currently trading at nearly 59.20 against the US dollar, up from the previous close of 59.22. The rise in unemployment in October was no surprise, says Call Financial Group. Analysts link it to the economic slowdown triggered by the flood control scandal. On BNC's Business 360, Serge Zandueta, portfolio manager at Call Strategic Growth Fund, warned that high joblessness could persist. He says the government needs to clarify policies and resume paused projects to stabilize the labor market.
long do you think that this trend of high unemployment could go on for?
Probably maybe up until the first half of next year. So I think what we really need to see is some clarity in terms of the government, in terms of the governance type of policies that they have in place, so that a lot of the projects could restart and begin. So I think right now, given that the budget is in suspense, since the government is trying to get its act together and plug the leaks, there's a lot of pause at the meantime. So I think once we see clarity on this front, maybe we could see the employment pick up again.
Zandueta adds that once budget and government issues are addressed, the employment rate may recover in the first half. The audit has flagged the Social Security system for giving 333 million pesos in cash bonuses to 6,525 officials and employees, even as 595 million pesos in long overdue member loan refunds remain unpaid. This 2024 audit report says SSS on salary, educational, calamity, and separation loans on time, while employees still got up to 50,000 pesos each under the program on awards and incentives for service excellence. Auditors call the payout and excessive, pointing out that SSS did not prove actual savings from innovations or performance. SSS, however, says the bonuses follow guidelines and cites 16.52 billion pesos in productivity-related savings. COA urged the agency to either justify the bonuses with actual savings or refund unsubstantiated incentives and promptly settle outstanding member overpayments. And that's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Robert Tan. Join us again tomorrow for the stories that help you plan your next big, bold business moves. Only here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.